Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining. Welcome to another edition of the Spin Zone. I'm your host, Spin Doc, here with you on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. Please do subscribe if you want all of our VIP content. Everything is there. You can also get a whole bunch of NFL content that we have available. Sosa and I doing a whole bunch of shorts on every NFL team. What's some of the biggest questions that they have to answer? What are some of the things that we can look forward to? And what things can we look to for things that can potentially be a disappointment? So we have all of that available at Daily Bread Network. Also, if you like what you hear, please do follow me at Spin Doc Sports on X. Share, like the stream. We do appreciate the love. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about last night and what did we learn? Well, number one is we learned that playoff teams or potential playoff teams are going to be very, very cautious with their starting pitchers. I'm talking about Nick Lodolo. And the lineup for the Cubs actually didn't even have Pete Crow Armstrong. They decided to go Willie Castro and go righty-lefty instead of the lefty-lefty matchup. And Castro is just as much of a strikeout candidate as PCA is, but it didn't make much of a difference because Lodolo did go out in the first inning with a blister. From what I remember seeing, he did pine, or he wanted to stay in, but he was yanked pretty early for Nick Martinez. And that's the one thing that you are going to see again from potential playoff teams is that they're not going to waste any time. They're going to be so careful with these starting pitchers. And so from what I understand, it was a minor blister and it was something that he should be able to make his next start on, but an unfortunate break because he only pitched an inning and a third. Would he have hit his strikeout prop? Who knows? But that it's one of those unfortunate situations that, the blister developed during his start. So not much you could have done. Elsewhere, I talked about how Jesus Luzardo and Glasnow really over is the only way to play it. Luzardo just got there at the very, very end, getting 7. He only had 3 strikeouts through 50 some pitches. And that's what happens when you do have a team that has a lot of patience like the Orioles did. What actually happened for him was that the Phillies put up 8 runs in the 6th inning, which then made the Orioles a little bit more apt to swing a little bit freely, busted open a tie 3-3 game, and picked up some strikeouts. So he did hit, and Glasnow also just hit at the end. And the real lesson that I took away from last night, because there weren't a whole lot of other pitchers of note even going, is that you really, for some teams and for some pitchers, Luzardo is a case in point. You really can only go over or nothing. And it's why taking an under on certain teams, it's why in VIP, it's why no under island exists. You just can't do it because there's just such a high potential to have strikeouts at some point during the start that you're always walking the edge. And so it's why a team like the Rockies is on no under island, which I'll get to them and what happened with their pitcher briefly after this. But it's why a team like the Athletics are, for the most part, on no under island. We're actually going to talk about the guy facing them today too. So it's why stuff like that exists, because you just have so high of a potential for strikeouts across the lineup that you're always just walking on this razor's edge. In most cases, there's just so many more better things to invest your money in. So that's what I would say about last night. Overall, there weren't a whole lot of really, pitchers going last night. The only other one I want to talk about was Eric Lauer against the Rockies. I know, I think Kid Keon asked about him yesterday, somebody asked about him yesterday, but I said with the Rockies, it is over or nothing. I know that a few people in VIP said that books, their book was offering them a profit boost on Lauer specifically. And that's the one thing that I said, I said the matchup is right and it's over or nothing. But I think Berg and VIP brought up that typically profit boosts are where the traps lie, and typically that is the truth. And it was evident last night. Lauer only struck out 4 in 6 innings. So not that you should never take a profit boost, but if you get offered a profit boost out of the blue, on a pitcher that's not normally going to be a guy that you're going to count on for something like strikeouts, or even in, like NFL for like rushing or passing yards, anything like that, you should always be a little bit suspect of it. And it's because the point remains over and over and over again is that these books do not give out free money. Ever. Their lines aren't wrong. Their lines are set for a reason. They don't just give away things. So, not that it, if you're getting like, say, a 200% profit boost on a guy and you can throw a little lunch money on it and maybe, make a quick buck, not to say that that's bad and that might not even be worth it here and there. But overall, I would be really careful about looking into like what kind of profit boost you are getting, because those offers usually come for a reason. And usually it's because they need money or action on a certain side. And so you try to get that, like, what's going to be the most attractive thing? Well, obviously boosting Eric Lauer against the Rockies, who are the strikeout kings of MLB, is going to be something that's going to be very attractive. So just wanted to just kind of say, like, not that you shouldn't take it, but if you get a profit boost on anybody, I would go very, very light on it typically, unless it's a guy that you are already planning on betting on or a thing that you're already planning on betting on, because typically that's where traps lie. So with that in mind, we do have 3 pitchers to talk about today. Also have another host of updates from NFL training camp. So wanted to get to that. But first, let's go to the chat. Our New York Times bestselling author, Luke Murphy, is in the house. I am late. Yeah, sorry. Better late than never. I was actually finishing an NFL update. So my bad on that. But good morning, Luke. And thank you for joining as always. Roger, good morning. Good morning. And yeah, I hope there's no injuries today either. Teams are just hypersensitive about it at this point in the year, especially when it comes to anything with the hand or the arm, because even if it's not a playoff team, what you also have is you have guys who, if the team sees a long-term future in them, or if they're going to be a long-term starter for them, they're just going to shut them down and they're just going to get them out and not risk it. So definitely hope for no injuries today. Mario is back in the house. Welcome back, Mario. I appreciate you being back. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for being here. Same thing with Philip Magruder. Thank you, and good morning to you as well. Appreciate all of you here in the chat. Thank you all so much. Anybody else, if you have any thoughts, any games, any pitchers that you want covered aside from the ones that we're talking about, please do go ahead and throw them in the chat and let me know. But we will cover 3 pitchers today, and the first of whom will be in a back-to-back rematch, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to cover it. Logan Webb, the righty, is striking guys out at, for him, an insane pace, 26.3%. He is walking guys at a 5.8% clip, and he gets what typically for strikeouts is the toughest spot to get them, is in a home to road back to back. It is lined accordingly with 6.5, an over 6.5 at plus 110, and an under 6.5 at reasonable juice. So my thought on this for Logan Webb, because of multiple things, elements on the chart and others, is that this is going to be an over or nothing spot for me. So one of the things that Logan Webb has really, really developed this year is the whiff percentage and just the overall usage on his changeup. You can see that it is one of his out pitches. It has a 35.6% whiff percentage. That is up almost 15% from last year. And it's up, actually 15% from any year that Webb has ever thrown the ball. Now, what's changing with this changeup that's made it so lethal is that Number one is he's taken a little bit off of it because his changeup has always averaged about 87, 88 with a fastball that hits around 92. This year, the changeup is averaging around 86. He's also changed the location on it. This changeup this year is running, if we go back to our clock, this changeup is running in the 4 to 6 range. So low and away, or low and in if it's a lefty like that. And in prior seasons, Webb has thrown his changeup more in the 2 to 3 range. So it's kind of jutted outward or jutted in, but hasn't had that low bite. And the low bite and the low, the spin that's going low and biting is what's getting him all or a lot of the extra whiffs. To that end, the changeup for Webb this year does have 42 inches of vertical drop. That's 6.5 percent higher than MLB pitcher average. And so in prior years, for example, he's had a little bit of vertical drop, but nowhere near this much. So the changeup running in and down like that is one of the things that is causing that increased whiff percentage for the changeup. So let's look at the Pirates lineup. If we break it down, we do have 4 lefties and 5 righties. Now, this disparity in K'ing lefties and righties has been true for most of the season for Webb, home or away, it doesn't matter, is that he Ks righties at a lot higher clip than he does K lefties. Again, one of the reasons for that is because of where his changeup runs, is that his changeup runs away from lefties. And if you're a lefty that has some good reach, what you can actually do is you can reach out and you can poke the ball and you can at least put it in play or foul it off to see another day. It's a lot harder to do when it's running in and down on you like it does with right-handed batters. And so overall, Logan Webb allows a decent amount of contact in the zone. But when you chase pitches, and especially when you chase low and in with that changeup, that's where you're going to see your whiffs. So of this Pirates lineup, what we do have is we have 4 guys who do chase above league average. Gonzalez, Cruz, or actually 3 guys, I'm sorry, and Cruz is close. But we have Gonzalez, we have Davis, and we have IKF. Now, by the contact metrics, you wouldn't expect that IKF would be a strikeout candidate. However, Webb has gotten him 2 out of 7 times, and he actually has had, for him, a little bit higher whiff percentage than usual over the last few weeks. So then you go and you look at Davis, and Davis chases above league average, makes contact at league average, and that's a candidate for a strikeout as well. Same thing goes with, he's gotten Cruz 4 out of 9 times. Cruz has a very, very poor chase contact percentage. He also takes a bunch of pitches in the zone where Webb operates above league average. So all of that together, you have to think that that is going to lead to at least 1 strikeout, but I have him at a 1+. And the reason why I do is then when you factor in the past history, and you also factor in that his whiff percentage against a changeup is just absolutely gaudy, 42.4. League average is about 30. Webb generates 35.6 as noted, and Cruz is all the way up at 42.4. So you have a huge whiff percentage to all of the best things that Cruz throws. Then you also have Reynolds, who chases a little bit below league average, but makes horrible contact when he does. And Webb has great history against both him and Horwitz. So if the Pirates are going to run Horwitz and Reynolds up top, even though this is a back-to-back, Webb was not adjusted. He was a 6.5 before. He's a 6.5 now. He's been a 6.5 over his last 10 starts. Only 2 times, 1-1 to that number, with 1 being against this same Pirates team. But he also has very, very good past history against them. So when the books go off of past history, when they factor past history in, which you would when you're putting a guy on the road, it's at a number he's only been at twice. And you have a 33.3% K percentage and 63 plate appearances. That's something you got to pay attention to, and that's what I'm paying attention to. So even though it is a home to road back to back, this is one where if we get this lineup in this order, this is one that I'm looking to back Webb on the over for. And the reason why is because of the top five, you have Horwitz, you have Reynolds, and you have Cruz. When you factor in all the whiff numbers, all the past history, you have the potential for four strikeouts to come from those three alone. Now, you get that, and then you only have three strikeouts throughout the entire rest of the lineup, which if you get Davis in, if you get McCutchen in, if you get, there's a whole bunch of different combinations that you can get three strikeouts from there. So this is over or nothing for me, even though it is a back-to-back. There's just way too much. There's way too low of chase contact percentage among this entire Pirates lineup. I mean, really, the only two that have solid chase contact are Horwitz, who Webb has gotten 4 out of 6 times, and IKF, who Webb has gotten twice as well, and whose overall whiff percentage has actually been up in previous weeks. So you give me this lineup, and I think there's 7 out there. So there's way more value on taking an over 6.5 here at plus money than there would be for to take a heavily juiced under. So now if we don't get this lineup, if we get something different, if you want the over, the ones you want in are, you want Horwitz is fine. I'm sure he'll be in. You want Reynolds in. You want Cruz in. You want Davis in. Those are the ones that you want in. The ones you could do without would be Gonzalez, would be Triolo, and I mean, IKF is a high contact guy, so maybe, but there's not a whole lot of other combinations that are in this lineup where you could like pull 3 guys out and put 3 different guys in. That would be about the only thing that would make me not want to at least take a look on this one. So over or nothing easily for Logan Webb. Also, a few more people joined. We got Cedric. Good morning to you as well. Thanks so much for joining. Cedric saying 8 watching, 18 watching, 6 likes. I see that we got actually a lot watching on X. I see that we got like multiple hundred watching on X. But yeah, if please follow Cedric's advice. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Also, good morning to Lauderdale Owens. Thank you for joining. And yeah, I'm not talking about Evaldi, but I will get to him at the very end for sure. All right, moving on. We move on to our next pitcher, who is the curious case of McKenzie Gore. The curious case of McKenzie Gore. The lefty is striking guys out at a 28.7% clip, walking guys at an 8.7% clip for the season, not lately. And we get a line which is a little shaved from what I thought it might be. I thought against this team going on the road, going across the country, I was thinking we would get a minus 155, minus 160, or even get a 7.5. But that's against McKenzie Gore Classic, meaning the first half of the season. That is not the McKenzie Gore that we are seeing right now. I do see that DraftKings just moved it to a 7.5, which was what I expected it to open at to begin with. But you have a few of the sharper books that are hanging a very, very bettable over 6.5. So let's talk about McKenzie Gore. And let's talk about McKenzie Gore since July 20th. Since July 20th, McKenzie Gore has a grand total of 10 strikeouts across 3 starts. And in that same exact time, he has also allowed 15 earned runs. So averaging 5 earned runs per game. His ERA in those starts is almost 10. And it is just not the same pitcher that you are used to seeing at the start of the year, who actually for about a month and a half led the National League for sure. He might have led baseball. I think him and Skubal were neck and neck in strikeouts. So what has been different about McKenzie Gore? Number one is in a few of his starts since that point, his spin rate on all of his pitches was down with the exception of a changeup. And the changeup one isn't good because you don't want that much spin on a changeup. You actually want a changeup to run a little deader. So for example, against the Twins, where he struggled to get even 4 strikeouts, his RPMs on his spin were down by anywhere from 20 to almost 80 RPMs, and anything over 50 is considered is pretty noticeable. So on his curveball, which is his main out pitch, it was down by 63 RPMs. His spin was down again against the Astros in his last start. Now, the big thing with McKenzie Gore is that he needs to generate chase to get those higher numbers of strikeouts. I talk about this with pitchers like Jack Flaherty, where like Jack absolutely needs chase to get strikeouts. McKenzie Gore's a little bit different because McKenzie Gore can get guys with his four-seam fastball. He doesn't have a dominating fastball, but he's got a better fastball than a lot of people. So when you are a guy like McKenzie Gore, is that what you need is you need guys to chase to get those higher numbers. Now, what has he been generating for chase swing and for chase contact? Well, that's been down as well because his overall chase contact, which is a byproduct of when your breaking pitches don't run like that and don't spin like that, against the Astros, 69%. And you can see how that compares to his overall season average of 48, which is one of the best numbers in baseball. Against the Twins, 82%. Against the Padres, which is when a lot of this started, is that I think it was in the 90s as well. So, or no, I'm sorry, 67. So 67. So for a guy who's generating chase contact of one of the best rates in baseball, under 50%. This is a guy who's averaging almost 70 something over his last few starts, and the strikeouts have cooperated and corroborated with that. So what do we do with McKenzie Gore today? Well, under on the road for the Athletics traveling across the country, yeah, you can't do that. You just can't do that. Look at the chase contact for this team. It's just hideous. It's just absolutely hideous. Now, we do only have 3 guys who chase in the projected lineup: Langoliers, Gio Urshela, and Thomas. Now, of those, 2 of those actually have reasonable to good chase contact. Thomas's is horrible, but you also have guys who take a bunch of pitches in the zone in Butler, in Kurtz, and in Urias, and a few others who are right about league average. When Gore gets ahead in the count, he is very lethal at almost a 50% strikeout rate. My problem here with wanting to back Gore on a big number is that you look at this just horrendous chase contact, but you've also had guys in the past 3 lineups that he's faced where they haven't generated chase contact either. So what am I doing with McKenzie Gore? I haven't fully decided yet. I want to see what the line does when this lineup comes out. Now, this lineup is ripe for an over. I mean, when you have 6 guys who have subpar chase contact, this is a real nice get right spot for McKenzie Gore. Well, the other thing I'm looking at with McKenzie Gore is what's plagued him over his last few starts here have been walks, because he walked 6 against the Twins, he walked 3 against the Astros, and he actually kept the ball in the zone a lot more, or I'm sorry, against the Padres. He kept the ball in the zone a lot more against the Astros, and they torched him for 8 hits and 6 earned runs, even though he only walked 1 guy. So the question here becomes, is Gore going to try to get guys to chase again, knowing that the spin on his pitches is down, or is he going to try to operate in the zone? And that's what makes it tough for me to take this one pregame, because even though the athletic zone contact is pretty terrible as well, it makes it hard for me to take a heavily juiced bigger number for a guy until he shows me something. So by the numbers, this should be a get right spot. However, when this opened at a 6.5 with very bettable juice on multiple books. So I'm a little leery about this one. Now, if once the lineup is confirmed, if everybody moves it to a 7.5, what I might want to do is put him at 7 and then play him with something else, take him down to 7, or even just play one unit straight up without paying the juice on the 7+, because his hits and his earned runs are right where they should be. It's just that for a team striking out as much as this team, for a team with just absolutely atrocious chase contact, not only is Gore not generating a whole lot of chase swing lately, but his chase contact is way up in the 70s. And two of those teams, the Twins and the Astros, the bottom of their lineup all said that they should just chase and whiff, and neither one of them did. The Padres, I gave them a little bit of a mulligan on because they're one of the best contact teams in baseball, and over the last 2 weeks specifically, their overall contact metrics have been quite good, but I just can't get there at the moment. I might be able to get there with a 7+, but thinking that 8 is in the cards here after what he's shown the last 3 starts and the fact that his spin rate is down, I gotta wait and I gotta see it. I got to see it with McKenzie Gore. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not completely out on him, but I'm going to need something really significant to change before I get there. All right. Now, a guy that I'm not out on in the slightest, and despite the opponent that I think could be in for quite the strikeout start like usual, is Garrett Crochet. The lefty is striking guys out at a 31% clip, walking guys at a 6.7% clip. He gets the Kansas City Royals tonight, and he has a number that you would expect at a 7.5 at even money, with an under 7.5 at -130. Now, with Garrett Crochet, this guy just absolutely lives in the zone. 53.1%, and his 2 main pitches are a 4-seamer and a cutter. Now, with that 4-seamer and cutter, I talked about how guys like McKenzie Gore, Jack Flaherty, etc., they can get misses in the zone, but their 4-seam fastball is not really their primary out pitch. They need guys to chase. It's not how Crochet does it. Crochet is like a freight train coming right at you, hitting you at 98, 99. He's even touched 100. And this man will just attack in the zone. And why this plays so well with this Royals team is you look at the league average for zone swing on the far left, and you see at 66.9%. And you see that half the lineup is under league average in pitches or swinging inside the zone. Now, obviously the zone contact is there when they do swing, but Garrett Crochet is a different animal, because Garrett Crochet is almost down in like Scooble type numbers at 77.8% zone contact. I've talked about how 82.6 is league average. I've talked here before about how anything under 80 is good. Anything 77-ish or 70, anything in that 75 to 77 range is phenomenal. Anything under 75 and you're out of this world. So not quite Scooble numbers, but it's close. So Crochet just goes right at you and makes you miss. And so if you have India, you have Pascantino, you have Garcia, you have Grichuk, and you have Isbell. And every single one of them swings under league average in the zone. Now, while most of them make contact when they do, this is where the 4-seamer and the cutter run together to create a nice mixture of potential whiff pitches for a team like Kansas City. Because when you get behind on Garrett Crochet, as you can see on the bottom right, he strikes you out at 50% of the time. It doesn't make a difference what your zone contact is. It really doesn't. Like it just doesn't. You look at past history, which is one of the things that books take into account when they set these lines. And the past history is there. India, 3 for 7. Witt, 3 for 6. You have Salvi Perez, 4 out of 8. And so while it's not like a deep past history, there is enough here to go off of at a 38.2% strikeout clip to think that there is all kinds of potential for Crochet. I'm not going to say to shove, like I'm not thinking he's going to get like 10. So I don't know if I would ladder it, but what I would do is I would strongly look at playing the over here, because it doesn't make a difference what your contact metrics are. I mean, unless you're like one of the otherworldly contact guys all around, like Arise or a Stephen Kwan, a guy like that. If you're going to take pitches in the zone, your chances of striking out against this man increase exponentially, exponentially. And it does. He's gotten guys that have had overall just as good, if not better, contact metrics than this group right here with Kansas City. So if this is the lineup that we get, and especially if we get those 5 guys that swing below league average in the zone, and even Lofton at 67.4%, that's still not like, I mean, that's still right at league average. So you need to swing and you need to try to put the ball in play against Garrett Crochet because he's just going to come after you. Now, if you do happen to get in those hitters counts, which is another thing that plays into this number, is you have him at a 36.8% whiff percentage on his sweeper, which is the primary pitch he throws outside of the zone. And you do have multiple guys that are up near or over that 30% range to whiff to it. So I for sure see 7 for Crochet. Depending on how this lineup is organized, I can see 8 as well. The other thing that I look at with Crochet is that his outs are set at a very, very strong 18.5, and his earned runs are down at 1.5. It's every now and then we get a 2.5 from him, but juice to the under, but we get a 1.5. And not only do we get a 1.5, we get a 1.5 with even juice on the over and the under. Normally, even at home, you're going to see the over at like -130, -135, somewhere in that, -140, somewhere in that range. Nope, we got it at -110. -110 for under 1.5 earned runs, throwing 6 innings. And we also get hits at 4.5. What does that tell me? That tells me that Crochet is going to have probably, and the conditions are right for Mr. Crochet to have himself a start. So this is a clear over or nothing look. There's no way you can back an under in this spot. And the last thing here is that Edwin, if you even need anything else, Edwin Moscosko, the umpire, is a pitchers friendly umpire. 17 Ks per game, which is above MLB umpire average of about 16.3, 16.4. And he's had multiple seasons where he's had a pretty wide zone. So if you're going to take against this guy, you're going to put yourself in bad spots. And when you put yourself in bad spots against Crochet, he makes you pay. You add it all up together, it's a pretty easy look at the over for me for Crochet. So, all right. We'll get to other looks and training camp stuff in a moment. I want to say what's up to Cover Kings. Had Lizardo 7 and Glasnow 6. Both of those hit. Congrats to Cover Kings. And tonight he likes Evaldi 5 plus Peralta 5 as an alt parlay. Cedric giving Cover King some flowers, and Roger asking thoughts on climbing the ladder with Zebby Matthews, which I actually didn't look at, but I'll come back to him in a second. And Kid Keon will get to yours too. So let's first talk about, because Lauderdale asked it first, let's talk about Evaldi versus the Yankees. Well, with the lineup the Yankees are putting out today, or put out most days, it is always over or nothing. We actually are getting a Yankees tax now on their strikeouts, but it's not for the things you usually get a Yankees tax on, which would be like juiced money lines at home. We're getting a tax on their strikeouts, and we should, quite honestly, because there's so much swing and miss potential in this lineup. But when I look at past history, and there's not a lot of strikeouts across this lineup against this man over the course of his career. Because remember, a lot of these Yankees hitters, or at least a few of them, faced him when he was back in Boston. And so they still remember him they still have a lot of plate appearances like Judge, for example, Stanton. Like they still have plate appearances against him from his Boston days. But being a well-traveled veteran, he's got a lot of guys in this lineup that he's got multiple plate appearances against. And there's not a whole lot of strikeouts across it. And so for me to back a 6.5, it would have to be almost the perfect lineup. Now, looking at the projected lineup right now, with Judge, Stanton, Jazz Chisholm, and Ryan McMahon, that would be pretty darn close because every single one of those guys can go down. My other problem, though, is that Eovaldi has had some spots against really, really high strikeout teams where he has just not performed. The Mariners at home is one where he had 2. The Orioles at home is another where he had 5. At the Angels last week where he had 4, and against this same Yankees team at Yankee Stadium where he had 6. Now, granted, McMahon wasn't in that lineup, but the point being is that the 7 is probably a bridge too far for me. I can see 6. I can see 6 for sure. I'm just not sure that I can get to 7. Also, because I don't see anything else in any of his other lines that's telling me that like he's going to go out there and smack. Like if his earned runs was down to like a 1.5, and or his hits were a little bit lesser juice on the over, I might give it a shot. I might say, yeah, you know what, or I'll be more apt to put 7 with something, or put 6. I'm sorry, with something, but it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite. So also Berg welcome in saying if Jack, that's Sawinski, is back in the lineup, then Logan Webb becomes an instant bet. Yeah, he probably does. This might be one where yeah, I might just say at least for a half a unit, you just got to run with it. You just got to run with it. So Roger asking thoughts on climbing the ladder with Zebby Matthews. That is the guy to, it's the opponent to do it with. The Tigers are striking out at just an absolutely incredible rate. Matthews has some decent strikeout history, but my issue here is that his projected outs are still at a 15.5. So 5 innings. He's on the road, and last start, which if he was going to climb the ladder, Boston at home would have been a team to do it against as well. And he didn't do it. He actually kind of got pounded and only struck out 4. So, you know, the teams that he has gotten strikeouts against were before, like in his first few starts as well, before teams started catching on to him. So I'm not sure I'd climb the ladder. I think I could see 6, which you can get at about plus 125 right now on DraftKings, but I'm not sure that I would go much higher than that, especially for a guy who is only projected to go 5 innings and actually has recorded more than 15 outs twice in, I believe, in 7 starts. So tougher to do. Kid Keon asking thoughts on Shota, Peralta, and Brian Woo. Shota is an interesting one because Shota should not be lined probably at a 5.5 at bettable juice on both sides. Shota should be lined at a 4.5 with heavier juice on the over, but he's not. And his earned runs are also down at 1.5. They've been down at they've been at 2.5 for pretty much every single start, with the exception of one against the White Sox, where he got absolutely murdered and allowed 7 earned runs. So his outs are where they normally should be. His hits are where they normally are. Strikeouts are up at 5.5, despite the fact he's only averaging 4.2 strikeouts per game over his last 10, and has only hit this number 3 times in his last 10 starts, meaning 6+. So this is one where I'm really interested to see what kind of lineup the Reds put out, but this is an over or nothing spot for me because the earned runs being down when it's been at 2.5 virtually every start. And the one time it was at 1.5, he got obliterated. And he's also allowing almost 2.5, or actually right around 2.5 earned runs per game. The fact that we're not getting a 2.5 with heavy juice on the under tells me that Shota could go out and have a decent start. As far as Peralta goes, It's hard for me because right now, I don't think there's going to be weather, but they also don't have an outs prop for him, so it's hard for me to do without an outs prop for Peralta. And I do believe that it is because, at least as of right now, there is about a 57% chance of rain at some point during this game. I'm not sure what the actual weather is going to be because Atlanta can be very, very finicky when it comes to weather, and that's why I a lot of times don't even I don't even look until the afternoon when it comes to games at Atlanta if there's projected to be weather, just because it is very, very very changeable. It's very, very weird. So with Peralta, he also does not have a very good, I think Cover Kings mentioned this in the chat too, he doesn't have a very good history against a lot of these guys. So I mean, for the guys that are projected to be in the lineup, he's gotten Olsen 1 out of 12 times. He's gotten Albus 2 out of 17 times. He's gotten Jerks and Profar 1 out of 7 times. So there's just not a whole lot of great past history in this lineup against him. So you factor all of that in. And for me, Freddie Peralta is just a straight up pass. I'm not saying that he can't get 6 strikeouts against this team, because he very easily can. Actually, a lot of guys can get 6 strikeouts against the Braves. But I'm just saying there's too many question marks right now for me to want to take a huge investment in it, especially when you factor in that we could be looking at some potential weather issues. So whether or not those materialize, like I said, I don't look at the radar until the afternoon, because summer storms in the Georgia area, specifically in the Atlanta area, are very, very finicky and can change at a moment's notice. So, and then Mr. Brian Wu, man, I wanted to put this guy on the potential VIP card today. I really did. However, two things stopped me. Number one is that there were a few books, at least as of earlier this morning, that were hanging a 5.5, which the White Sox are normally a team that the books put at 6.5, just because of the pub. I believe part of the reason is the public sentiment to equate a bad team with striking out a lot. And while that sometimes is the case, it's not always the case in point with the White Sox. The other thing here is that, like usual with the White Sox, I'm not exactly sure what the bottom of their lineup is going to look like. Now, with this projected lineup, if Meadroth is going to be back in, if Caro is going to be in, if a few other guys are going to be in, an over becomes tough. And over becomes really tough, because righties, or lefties especially, but righties as well. This is a team that just makes they're not good. They don't score runs, but they do make contact. In fact, over the last 2 weeks or so, this team is 2.5% above league average in zone contact, which is important for Wu, because that's where he operates. And so I'm not completely out on Brian Wu yet, but I just didn't like where the line was in comparison to who the opponent was. I wish that we would have gotten this line against a team that didn't have as many high contact guys in as the White Sox can put in. But not knowing their lineup, it's probably going to be a pass for me as well. And Cover King saying, yeah, Peralta doesn't have the best history versus a few guys. We're seeing a different version of Peralta and the Braves. So, yeah, it all factored into me to just say it's probably best just to let it go. Like I'm fine letting it go for today. But if there's a different weather report and we know for a fact that weather won't be an issue, I might be persuaded to change my mind. All right. Let's go on with other looks, sides, and totals, and then we'll get into NFL training camp, NFL stuff for today. So for money lines for today, I think, interestingly enough, the Orioles money line actually does have some value at plus 120. I'm not sure that I have the cojones to do that. I think that the Yankees money line at plus 110 has a little bit of value. Guardians at plus 136 also has some value. And that's probably going to do it. There is some indications that there's some sharp money being put on the Cardinals right now. I'm not sure if I like the Cardinals to go back to back against the Dodgers. I especially don't know if I like that with Nicholas. So what I'm probably looking for more in that game would be an over. So over 9 for Dodgers and Cardinals, and either team total over, I think makes sense. The under in Giants Pirates, which it's kind of chalky because you got Logan Webb, but that makes sense as well. Same thing with the under for Reds and Cubs, under 8, under 7.5. Reds team total under also makes sense. So I think that you can mix and match a lot of unders for that game, and I think you can mix and match a lot of overs from the Dodgers and the Cardinals because I mean, conventional wisdom, it's Miles Mikolas, and Sheehan has been kind of up and down. So I think that there's a lot of potential for some runs to be scored, especially because last night was kind of a grind fest with the Cardinals and with the Dodgers. So, all right, let's talk some training camp. Let's talk some NFL training camp updates, things that, obviously I gave kind of a general update yesterday, but things that could be important. So, the first thing that I wanted to talk about here is, and I didn't even put him, like somebody asked me, like, are you going to put this guy on your, because in VIP was like, are you going to put this guy on your, you will probably thank me later list? And I'm like, well, no, because I don't think anybody's really looking at him until later. At least I hope not, is Najee Harris. I would not draft Najee Harris at all, like ever, like in any league, period. And the reason why is twofold. Number one, he remains sidelined. He's not close to practicing. Jim Harbaugh just keeps giving these non-updates about, well, he's getting better. He's doing the best he can. For those that don't know, Najee Harris got injured on 4th of July, caught some shrapnel from some fireworks, and has been to 2 different eye specialists, which is never a good sign because that means that you're getting a second opinion because you don't like what the first one said. Whenever you see that an NFL player has an injury and they are getting a second, third, go to multiple different doctors. If they're going to the same doctor, that means that they're probably getting treatment from that doctor and they have a plan that the team approves of. If you're going to multiple doctors, what that usually means is that the first one told you something that you didn't like or that you didn't want to hear. And then you go to a second one and you basically play musical doctors until you get the answer you want. And him not practicing means the team's not confident in that either. So the other factor here is rookie Omari and Hampton. I mean, VIP guys listening, you know this. I am sky, Mars, moon high on Omari and Hampton. This guy is big. He's physical. He runs hard. And he is the prototypical Greg Roman running back. He is the kind of guy that just thrives in this offense. And so I believe that there's many, many scenarios where Omari and Hampton gets the starting role in Los Angeles and never, ever gives it back. And even if Najee Harris comes back, maybe he's a change of pace guy. Maybe he's a 8 to 10 carry a game guy. But I think that the Chargers, for me, what it seems like right now is that the Chargers know who their guy is going to be. I'm not saying that I'm expecting 20 plus carries from Hampton right out of the gate, but I am expecting him to be the starter and have the number 1 carries throughout the year. So I personally am not drafting Najee Harris in virtually any leagues. I'm not even taking him as a handcuff because I don't think you need to. And if you're going to take a handcuff, I always take handcuffs that have high upside, not just guys who will play if the starter is hurt. And Najee Harris to me just does not have a whole lot of upside, especially when right now, literally all he's doing is walking laps around the field. So he can't even run. He can't even jog. And we're getting no updates from the team. Not good. So, I'm just not a fan in the slightest of anybody else in that backfield other than Omari and Hampton. The other couple updates that I wanted to go over here are that there has been a lot of talk from a lot of talk out of New York with the Jets. And I said this in the clip that the shorts on Daily Bread Network that I recorded with Sosa about what can you expect from the Jets offense. And what you've been seeing so far in training camp is that there's probably going to be more scenarios where Breece Hall and Braylon Allen are on the field together. And that happened kind of sort of last year, but when you have a pure pocket passer like Aaron Rodgers, it's a little bit different to have two backs back there, because then you have to do a whole bunch of exotic blitz pickups. Whereas if you put one out wide like they're doing this year, and if you have a running quarterback like they have with Justin Fields, who is expected to be back for week 1 and be the starter, is that you can do a whole bunch of different things with these guys' skill sets. So this Breece Hall is a guy that I think is going to actually be undervalued in PPR leagues, even though he's going as like a running back 1. In non-PPR formats, not as high on him, but he has been all over the field in training camp. He's been split out in the wide, he's been in the slot. He's run wheel routes. He's run all reverses, all kinds of different things. So I think that they're going to look to be creative with Hall in a way that they couldn't be with Aaron Rodgers last year, because Rodgers, obviously, his pocket passer, his age, lack of mobility, lack of ability to run, whereas you have a running quarterback with Justin Fields. So I am buying shares of Breece Hall this year. I'm especially buying Breece Hall in PPR leagues. I think from an ADP perspective, I'm moving him up probably half a round from where like magazines and everything have him going, just because of all these reports you're getting from training camp, is that not only is he getting the ball a decent amount in the passing game, but he's on the field a ton. Now, Braylon Allen, on the other hand, is probably going to be more of the pure runner. And so I do see times where they split both of them out in the backfield. Hall goes out in motion wide. They've done that already. They've also just lined Hall up in the slot and run like misdirection play, like different things like that you can do with a Justin Fields that you can't do with Aaron Rodgers. So where I stand on Breece Hall, I just told you, but where I stand on Braylon Allen is I think that if you get one, I would not be opposed to handcuffing the other one in the later rounds. Obviously, any injury to Hall would lead to a Braylon Allen being the clear leader in the backfield, but I'm not opposed to having both of them, which sounds weird to say about a group of Jets running backs, but that is something that I think can be very, very real. And so then the other thing that I want to talk about from training camp this year would be, there's been a couple other guys who have been like risers and fallers so far this year. And one guy who has been a faller this year and a guy that I'm just not looking at in any way, shape, or form is Darnell Mooney of the Falcons. And you might say, like, well, duh, I'm not. Well, yeah, but he is one of those guys that you can that people take as like their wide receiver 3 in their flex position, whatever. Not looking at him at all. You got Penix at quarterback. You have reports from training camp, even before Mooney got hurt, that Mooney was that Penix was just locked in on Drake London. And that happens with a young quarterback when they get a guy that they like and they just go crazy over him. And so he's been locked in on Drake London. Then you have Bijan Robinson there, and you have an offense that I don't think is going to like light the world on fire for points. So you only have so many options. You only have so many possessions. You only have so many reps that people get. So anyways, so yeah, you have a guy who not only is he hurt and might not be available for week 1, but plays on an offense where he's probably going to be the 4th or 5th option. So I am not interested in him at all. I think those are the main updates for today. More back tomorrow, and just wanted to give one more shout through the chat. But before I do, this show is brought to you on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. Please do give us likes, follows, shares, everything. We appreciate all the love. Want to give a run through the chat to Luke Murphy, Roger, Mario, welcome back. Philip Magruder, Cedric, Lauderdale, Cover Kings, Kid, Keon. I think that does it. Thank you all so much. Best of luck in all your action today. Back tomorrow with more NFL news, three more three more pitchers. We'll see you then.